As the phrase witch hunt still shows, the witch craze of the early modern period is now an infamous byword for superstition, hysteria, and irrational cruelty. Yet witch beliefs and persecutions remain surprisingly misunderstood. When people talk about witch-burning Puritans, for example, they wrongly assume that Puritans killed more witches than did High Anglicans or Catholics, whilst witches were almost never burned in England or America. So in this video, we are going to talk about the top 10 things you probably never knew about witches. So let's get started. Number 10. The Romans. Belief in witchcraft is probably as old as fear itself. Ronald Hutton finds degrees of it in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. What is perhaps more surprising is how powerful and deadly the fear of witchcraft was in ancient Rome. For many, the Romans now seem to epitomize order, efficiency, rational pragmatism, and the heights of culture. That seemingly paradoxical mixture is echoed again in early modern Europe, where the madness of witch hunts coexisted alongside the greatest achievements in art, music, and literature, and the early scientific revolution sparked by Robert Boyle, Thomas Willis, and Newton. Number 9. Clairvoyance. Lara Apps and Andrew Gow estimate that, between around 1450 and 1750, roughly 110,000 people were tried as witches, and about 60,000 of these executed. The vast majority of these victims lost their lives owing to superstition and misogyny. But there is evidence that a small handful of so-called witches had genuine psychic powers. An especially significant case of this occurred in Scotland in 1591. During a spate of accusations in North Berwick from 1590-92, a woman called Agnes Sampson was tortured and interrogated, and finally brought before King James VI. Number 8. The Witch of Edmonton. On April 14, 1621, Elizabeth Sawyer of Edmonton was charged with various crimes performed by supposed witchcraft. On 19th of April she was hanged as a witch at Tyburn. One especially damning piece of evidence against Sawyer was the death of a neighbor, Agnes Ratcliffe, after an argument between the two women. Ratcliffe's husband testified to an alleged curse on his wife, who had then gone to bed, foaming at the mouth in terror, and dying within 4 days. Numerous other accounts of voodoo death indicate that Ratcliffe actually died of fear. Number 7. Witch cannibals. Like some kind of imaginative black hole, witches sucked in just about every conceivable taboo and gave it new life. Time and again, witches were accused of cannibalism, especially the eating of babies or children. In some cases, they were said to rob graves and powder bones for their magic, but they were often seen as lusting for flesh as food. Lyndall Roper records the 1590 confession of one Barbara Leierheimer of Nordlingen, who had supposedly eaten a roasted child's little foot. The fact that Leierheimer died as a result of torture would give most of us some prejudice against her accusers. Number 6. Sucking out your life. If there is one single belief about witches which broadly covers all their supposed crimes, it is this: witches attacked life. They were often the scapegoats for miscarriages, infertility, and co-deaths. They were also scapegoated for severe weather which threatened the life and fertility of crops, and no less frequently for any illness of livestock. These beliefs distilled themselves into a recurrent fantasy, that witches somehow sucked the life from food, crops, animals, and people. At the time of Shakespeare, the soul was a real biological force, and fat had a status as an essence of life which rivaled blood. Number 5. Male witches. About 80% of those accused and killed for witchcraft were women. But for some reason, Normandy boasted an unusually high number of male witch cases from 1564 to 1660. As William Maunder has shown, of 380 witchcraft defendants in this region, around 3/4 were male, whilst after 1630, men virtually monopolized Norman witchcraft cases. Back in Britain, The notorious witch country of Essex featured two extraordinary male witches with very different characters and fates, across the last decades of Victoria and the reign of Edward VII. Number 4. Cutting a witch. Spontaneous vigilante assaults on supposed witches, sometimes fatal, may have been motivated by terror, hysteria, or personal feuding in many cases. But the widespread and enduring habit of cutting a witch was based on the magical idea that this particular assault would cancel the witch's power. In Scotland, this tactic was known as cutting a witch above the breath, on the forehead. Number 3. Child witches. Over 40 children were executed as witches in Würzburg in the 1620s. In 1669, a whirlwind of terror exploded through the Swedish village of Mora, where the ministers suffered sleep paralysis nightmares, and lost the power of speech for several weeks. Related interrogations revealed up to 300 children who were claimed to have been attending witches' sabbaths. That August, 14 women and 1 man were beheaded and then burned. 15 children were executed, and 148 whipped. Number 2. The Witch Dynasty of Dettingen. Many witch hunters believed that such devilish magic was passed down, one way or another, from diabolic parents to their children. In Dettingen, southern Germany, the Gamprel family were known as career witches and serial killers on an epic scale. Husband and wife Paul and Anne formed a coven with their sons Simon and Jacob, along with tailor George Smaltz, and armorer Ulrich Saheltbaum. When a storm broke on July 23, 1600, a dog fled into a cave and disturbed the Satanic Six at their black rites. Number 1. Witches and poltergeists. A few years ago I had the very strange experience of studying poltergeists and finding, in conversation with various friends, that these angry or disruptive spirits had invaded the houses of my fellow academics. The more I discussed the topic, the more cases I heard. Poltergeists do actually exist. And further research showed that they were the cause of witch accusations in a small number of cases. Poltergeists seem to use the energy of a young person in a given household, and that person is often female. Given that bizarre events follow this person around, observers can then leap to accusations of witchcraft. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, give a thumbs up and share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel.